Good morning, good afternoon, maybe even good evening, depending on where you are calling in from and walking from. This is Vanessa, your girl with GirlTREK, on the line with my girl Morgan. You there, Morgan? Black History Bootcamp.
I was just thinking yesterday, Vanessa, I was thinking, when Celie pointed her two fingers at him and said, everything you've done to me, already done to you. I was thinking that is the single most powerful, transcendent, faithful, agency, Buddhist mindfulness, surrender, power.
Yes.
Like it is just everything you've done to me, already done to you. Already done to you. I don't even have to worry myself with it. And she just put her fingers up and then electricity came from the fingers to that man. It's just everything you've done to me, already done to you. Oh, I was just thinking about it yesterday, and that has been the treatise of my weekend. When you played that song, I was like, yes. Listen, y'all, let's support that new purple. Let's just support change. We don't have to be afraid. We don't have to be afraid of pressure. We don't have to be precious. The world is precious. We are precious. Everything we create is precious. So let's support, y'all. People are doing new things, a new generation, new actors. Let's support. Let's support. Let's see.
Morgan, I love that you started right there because one, I woke up and I was like, can't sleep at night, maybe. And I was like, that's it. Suge walking into that church, walking in with her own acceptance, quite frankly, even able to receive what her dad had to offer. She first had to journey the entire movie to find it for herself in this really powerful and beautiful way. See, Daddy.
Sinners got souls too.
Yes. Oh man.
Vanessa, I believe between me and you that we could reenact the entire Color Purple. I believe it. And I believe if we got stuck on a line, we could unmute the line and anybody listening could fill in the line. That's how important and sacred that movie is to us. So I'm walking in a different neighborhood.
Are you? Where are you walking today?
Oh no. And you got to be careful in South Carolina. Oh no.
You do.
There's all these dogs. But I was driving. I was having a satisfaction morning, y'all. God is so good, and I just really surrendered to all things that are good. I know dogs. I know. It's a black lady. I know. But and I went to the gym this morning, and then after I was like, I gotta go get my nails done because we're traveling. I'm gonna see you in a couple of days. I was like, I gotta go get my nails done
tomorrow.
My nails done. Okay, so I didn't know that, but good. I got my nails done. I went to go get my nails done, and then I was like, well, let me go get some flip-flops because I have wore my sneakers, and I didn't want to put my sneakers on because no matter how much they tell you they dry, they not, y'all. The nails don't be dry. So I was like, let me go get some flip-flops. I was up in there buying some lashes and some flip-flops up in Walgreens, having a good old time. I looked at the clock, it was 11:50. I had my top down from my convertible. It's 77 degrees. I was rolling. And I was like, I think I gotta go to work. But look, I just pulled over. I'm exploring a new neighborhood somewhere behind Walgreens. It's very beautiful, actually.
I love that. I love that you're having a morning of satisfaction. I love that you're walking on foot in a new neighborhood. I'm not walking in my old neighborhood, my real neighborhood, DC. And as soon as I walked outside, it started raining. I was like, it's gonna rain on your head, and it rained on my head. So the whole Color Purple theme and energy is really coming through. But I was like,
bye, Ruby.
Yeah. But I was like, it thematically works for today's conversation about Toni Cade Bambara because I think she's an author who, much like Alice Walker did in The Color Purple, and then much like the whole film crew did with Steven Spielberg in the film, she has this way of just centering Blackness, and she centers it in a way that I just think is so powerful through language, through culture, through tradition. So I'm super excited to share a little bit about her today and to be on the line with women who are walking and allies who are walking from all over. We're on day 8, y'all. It's day 8 of this 21-day walking meditation. I personally can tell the difference. I mean, I personally can tell that just like it's really for me and my hips, Morgan. I've really been doing a lot of mindfulness walking and paying attention to like where my emotions are stored, which we're going to talk about a little in this conversation, and just where things show up in my body. And we talked about this actually in your beautiful Queen Afua episode on Friday. And y'all, Queen Afua's people heard the got word that we had the call. They did reach out, so I have her number, and we're going to try to actually bring her voice into a future episode. But we talked about on that episode too. We carry so much in our bodies, and this walking, just the consistency of the walking, which I haven't had as much consistency as you have, Morgan. It's just unloosening something like in my hips. It feels like debris is falling. God. Yeah, debris is falling by the wayside with every step I take, or things that I feel stuck to my pelvis are just yes.
Yes, sir. What'd you say? No. What's this? Oh, okay. What's Table of Hope? Oh no, sir. Okay, but I could take it. That might be a blessing. Listen here, you take the blessing. Then you take the blessing. Okay. All right. Sorry, Vanessa. Good. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I didn't have time to mute. I usually do, but I didn't want to be rude. Sorry. Like I'm going to be rude to my friend instead of just even in person right here. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. It's live, y'all. We're walking and talking to our neighbors and doing the things that we need to do to teach you all on this call. So I love when we bring the neighbors in. And I hope some woman out there has also experienced a looseness in her body and her spirit, especially in her physical body, since we've started these 21 days of walking.
Well, Vanessa, that makes me very happy. Did you get a chance to go to the beach at all?
I went to the tidal basin, not exactly the beach, but
no, it's water. It's water.
Yeah, it was water. Yes, and I got out, and if you've been to DC, you know that Martin Luther King is also on the tide. I also went to Haynes Point, so all of it is one big body of water. And Martin Luther King, beautiful. His statue is right on the tidal basin. And I got out and I was looking at him and looking at the tidal basin and thinking about the depth and just thinking about just all the things that we have talked about over the past week, and just having a moment of just gratitude. This happened last night, or like as the sun was setting, I went and just had a moment of gratitude. Yeah, for the week that happened, for the week that's ahead of us. And I watched Avatar last night. I watched Avatar. Right? Yeah, I gotta go back because I did fall. Look, I'm not getting this old. I did fall asleep on like the last 40 minutes, but it's partially because it's relaxing. Avatar. Yeah, yes, that's what I'm saying. It's kind of a meditation. You can fill your whole house with it, like, and one of the sisters in Avatar, she'd be like, breathe like the water. Just let it flow through you. There's no beginning. There's no end. You can be the water. You can breathe with the water. I was like, what is this? I feel great. Yeah. She was amazing. I'm so glad you watched it. That's so much fun. I'm glad you went to the tidal basin. I hear such a conviction and clarity in your voice, Vanessa, and it's just good to hear that from you, my friend. And this weekend I got saved again. Well, my pastor said, once you saved, you always saved. And I said, thank God for that, because I just be, listen, I'll be backsliding, y'all. I'll be backsliding, and I'm going to tell you something. I never really ascribed, I know my sister going to call me after this episode, but I never really ascribed to the concept of sin as long as you were doing what felt good. Like, I know that sounds crazy, because I know crack cocaine probably feel good. So I'm just saying, like, but like, I practice discipline and I do what feels good. So I never really thought, Morgan, you're a sinful human. But I have to tell you, I was so convicted. I joined this church this weekend, or a couple weeks ago, with my friend Jay. Thank you so much for inviting me to church. And I love the church so much. I love the AME, mostly after I learned about the AME on Black History Bootcamp. I was like, I should definitely be AME. I joined the church, y'all, because they said, do you need a church home? I was like, definitely, I need a church home. Join the church. It's in DC. Okay, so I'll be watching it online. So I watched it online, and the pastor's just young and anointed. He really is. He's just powerful. He speaks my language. And Pastor Watley was like, you can't expect the joy of the Lord to fill up your whole existence, and you know you ain't on the path. You know you're doing things to diminish your light. You know, and he was like, you know, you speaking over your life things that are negative and things that are wrong, and that you're consuming your time with things that make you small. And I was just so convicted, Vanessa. I was just like, that is sin. So anything that fills your day, whether it is
like choices that you're making. In my case, whether it is a spirit of restlessness, whether it is a relationship that is dysfunctional. In my case, I've been living all up with this man. I'm serious. And it hasn't been working for us. That's mostly what it is. It hasn't been working for us, not because of some dogma, but it just hasn't worked because I have been relying on him. I have been relying on him for my happiness, and I do that a lot. And I have had the great fortune of having men who can hold my happiness and who can, when I give it all away to GirlTREK, which I do, y'all, I really do. I give it all away. I give it all away to this organization. Every ounce of everything that I have, I give. And then I go home and I just want to collapse in my man's arms and I just want him to feed me. I want him to socialize me. I want him to like just become my I want him to care for me. And I felt like blasphemous that I was not caring for myself. So I'm with this new cowboy. He refuses to care for me. Not in some way where you should write in or call the authorities, but he needs care. He needs care. He does. And I try to give it to him, but I don't got enough to give to y'all, to give to him, to give to myself. So inevitably myself gets left off. And that is a sin. That is a sin. When you don't invest in the vessel that God gave you, when you don't know that your body is a temple, when you don't know that every step you take needs to be toward the fulfillment of your promise and your calling, and you don't know that, that's a sin. So whether or not
we have a finite amount of time in a day, quite frankly, and resource to give out, and you have to be so judicious with it, and you have to look at the piece of the pie and say, if none of the resource, and quite frankly, if most of the resource is not flowing back to you, then it's just an impossibility in terms of balance and scale. So you have to find those
magnitude
places.
of this movement is so great, Vanessa. The magnitude of this movement is so great that it requires a masterful amount of focus and commitment and love. And if anything come against that, I'm talking anything. I'm talking like Jamaican vacations. I'm talking anything comes against that. It's not right. It's not right because I have been given so much grace and so much restoration and so much resource and so much responsibility that like it is a sin to go against that. I believe it. And I was just like, God, please forgive me, please restore me, and please return your joy to me. Because I was feeling down and I was depleted, and like, you know how like your drain, your bathroom. I know this ain't the subject, but this block is.
No, it is the subject. I promise on the Holy Bible, I'm about to loop it all back. So keep going. It's crazy. It's not crazy.
But you know how you get drained?
It is what we're doing. Yes.
No, I felt the Friday before when we got into an argument, it's because I felt so drained and so uncared for by every single person in my life. I felt so like I had just left it all out there like an athlete, collapsed like that man did on the Olympics a couple years ago, right on the finish line. And then people just kept walking by. And I was just like, hello, I'm exhausted. And people just keep walking by, every single person. Ain't nobody called. Not even my sister and my mom. Nobody was calling. And I was feeling like, dang. And so I was like, pick yourself back up, practice a little self-care, do your regimen. I did that over the weekend. I felt great. And then I started feeling low again and depleted again. And I sat on Friday and looked at the sunset in this most beautiful place. And I felt the texture of desperation. I felt it in my whole body. I was like, I know. Do you remember that girl? Do you remember that girl who, the girl who made those Curly Girl products, and there were two sisters, and one of them committed suicide? Do you remember who I'm talking about?
I do.
And
I don't want to say the wrong name, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, there have been like 4 or 5 sisters like that in our atmosphere, in our positions, where people are like, what? But she was so successful. She was so beautiful. She got so much acknowledgement. But y'all, we are all so successful, all so beautiful. When you think about, and I am safe now, so that you don't have to call in or anything like that. But I'm just sitting there thinking like, I know the texture of that level of desperation. And if not for the God in me, that is just constant flickering, just burning in me. It's not for that. I understand. And so I was like, you better double down on that salvation, on being safe in the arms of what is greater than you. The moment you think that your ego, that you could just coast on through making whatever decisions, being rebellious or whatever, like I have to just settle in to what is true and what energizes me. I have to do that. I can't keep playing. So I was just like, okay, let me just go ahead. I cleaned out the whole refrigerator. I took all that mess out of there. Yeah. All them ice cream sandwiches. I just threw it all away. I hung up all my clothes. I put a whole bag for donated. It's just clean and airy up in there. I opened up all the windows. I cleaned the windows with some Windex. Listen, Cowboy ain't living there, but we still dating. And y'all all come to the wedding when it work out. When God say so, if God say so. Listen. Yeah, and I just claimed my space as a woman, and I just decided, one of the things my pastor said is that God inhabits the praises of his people. And I was like, if I don't speak nothing else, I'm going to just speak praise every single day of my life. Every single day of my life. I am not going to complain. I am going to ask for what I want. I am going to create what I need, and I am going to worship and wallow in the goodness and wonder of of this life. So that's what I'm going to do. So that's why I said I got saved again.
I love it.
Yeah, but let's hear. I'm sorry.
No, I love that. Don't apologize. I love that testimony. And first of all, every single day is a new day to start over. I just want to tell people this. Like every moment, every decision is a new opportunity. And you might need to have that same testimony Morgan has right now. Like maybe you did it, maybe something she just said, like, and you're like, you know what? I got to have praise on my heart because I'm holding on to this thing. I'm cutting myself off from this thing. Like every single day is an opportunity to be like, I think I can rise into the person who I dream of being right now. Look, Morgan, I was convicted all weekend because I had made these. First of all, I went to a grocery store that I don't usually go to, and it's in a like more low income neighborhood, and the choices for the food were so bad, and the cuts of meat were so bad that I felt so guilty even shopping. I was just like, I can't even believe just 3 down the block they have these other options. But then as I was shopping for it, I was just like, I'm pretty sure Diane Nash showed you started eating this meat and you asked her for the blueprint. And then I was like, I'm pretty sure Angela Davis told you the same thing and you asked her for the blueprint. And I'm pretty sure Dr. CB told you the same thing and you asked for the blueprint. And I was just like, and clean up. And I literally was like, you got to make a plan, Vanessa. And I just have started in my own spirit, like making a real plan that says I have to transition away from these harmful habits and behaviors that I know are harmful to me if I'm going to, with conviction, lead the organization that's the largest health movement in the world for Black women. And it's a journey, but I had to get clear about my destination. I had to get super clear about what my destination was, what my obligation was to what I'm doing, and the why of what I'm doing, which is honestly because I want to honor the ancestors, honestly because the numbers don't lie and add up to longer life expectancy when you make certain choices, honestly because I certainly can't be wasting time with people asking for advice and then not willing to integrate nor incorporate the advice when I know that the advice rings true. So I personally, as a leader, realize I have a very long road to go. And I do think that Morgan and I sharing our journey along the road is the healing work that needs to happen in this movement. It is not, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so we're all getting there. And Toni Cade Bambara was a woman, Morgan, who wrote about this so flawlessly and so meticulously. I actually didn't plan to start here, but I want to read this quote from her book, The Salt Eaters, and then we're going to talk about a little bit more after I give some background. But this quote is so powerful to me, and it speaks to a lot of what you're saying. She says, "For sometimes a person held on to sickness with a fierceness that took 20 hard-praying folks to loosen. So used to being unwhole and unwell, one forgot what it was to walk upright and see clearly, breathe easily, think better than was thought, be better than one was programmed to believe. So concentration was necessary to help a neighbor experience the best of herself or himself. For people sometimes believed that it was safer to live with complaints, was necessary to cooperate with grief, was all right to become an accomplice in self-ambush. And then later on in that same passage, somebody says,
Stop.
Yes. Yes.
That is it.
That's it.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
that's it. I have chills all over that is
I do
it,
too.
Vanessa. It is
I'm going to read it
safer to be
again.
sick.
I'm going to read it again,
It is
y'all.
safer to be sick. Please, please.
Yes. For sometimes a person held on to sickness with a fierceness that took 20 hard-praying folks to loosen. So used to being unwhole and unwell, one forgot what it was to walk upright and see clearly, breathe easily, think better than was thought, be better than one was programmed to believe. So concentration was necessary to help a neighbor experience the best of herself or himself. For people sometimes believed that it was safer, y'all, to live with complaints, was necessary to cooperate with grief, was all right to become an accomplice in self-ambush.
So the part about that quote that said concentrate, what did it say about concentration?
So it was saying that the healers around this woman who was experiencing,
No. What was that? What was that one line about concentration?
So concentration was necessary to help a neighbor experience the best of herself or himself.
This is what I'm trying to say. And I know this sounds very 101, Vanessa, very Harriet Tubman doctrine, but I literally could not save the cowboy unless I saved myself, and unless I had incredible and impeccable concentration around my own discipline of self-care, because I love him and he loves me, and he is clinging to sickness as a badge of Black man honor, as a part of his culture and extension of his community, because he doesn't want to leave them behind because they are so sick. And so when he sees another pathway and he sees a bright light, it scares him that he has to leave everything that he loves. And I am saying, come on, baby, you can come. But I was depleted because I didn't have my own discipline. So whether you saved and sanctified, whether you Buddhist and bound up, it doesn't matter what your practice is. You have to have a concentration, a laser focus on healing. You have to have it. Otherwise, generations of sickness will overcome you. And that is not a curse that I am putting on anybody. That is a fact of our existence in America. They tried to destroy us and they failed. And so I was talking to my girlfriend the other day, and she's white, and she's my good friend, and she was like, no, you got to leave. Or we had therapy a couple of weeks ago, and the therapist was like, are you trying to fix him, Morgan? And I was like, looking at her, like, don't you know we are broken to the bone, trying to fall apart? If somebody ain't trying to fix somebody, then what? Lady, don't even introduce that energy into here. I'm trying to survive with my man. Don't even introduce that into here. I am trying to survive with my family, and I am valiant. And so I don't even think our allies understand sometimes. I don't think they understand the level of sacrifice it requires to heal a generation. But I'm telling you all, we cannot do that work until we save ourselves. So create space in your life to save yourself. I'm just understanding all them quotes that self-care, is a revolutionary act. That what did Audre Lorde say? It's an act of political warfare. That's what she says.
Right. Yeah. The personal is political, right. Which I've always believed. No, I appreciate you for your honesty, Morgan. And in Toni Cade Bambara, so much. Yeah, she's written several books, but two of her most famous are Gorilla My Love, which she first wrote. It's a collection of short stories. And people loved Gorilla My Love because the protagonist is this young Black girl who really pushed against the kind of victimization of Black women. She always could be her own hero in all of those short stories. And that was a new framing, especially for a young Black girl. And I put it in the email today, recommending it for preteens or teens who you might have in your life as something that inspire them. And then her next book was The Salt Eaters. And I have had, sometimes things just speak to you, and I've had this book for so long and it took me so long to read it. But when you open up the book, it poses a question that is so powerful that I've always sat with it. And it's kind of what you're talking about. And the question says, and this is a healer, and she's talking to this woman who is the star of the book. And the star of the book has given her whole life to social justice movements, her whole life to frontline activism. And she is weary, and she is beaten down, and she had tried to commit suicide. And she has come into this healing space that has traditional medicine, and it has the healing modalities of our ancestors. And a healer sits her down, and she says, "Are you sure, sweetheart, that you want to be well? Just so that you're sure, sweetheart, and ready to be healed, because wholeness is no trifling matter. A whole lot of weight when you're well." I read that first when I was in college, when I was first trying to redefine myself against the trauma of my family. And it hit me then, because I was like, there is so much weight in my decision to leave them behind. There is so many choices that didn't feel good at the time in order for me to be as well as I was, to leave Seattle, to go to college, to craft the life that led me here. And it's a question, because it felt safer sometimes to repeat the patterns. It felt safer sometimes to make the same choices that, because I at least understood and knew, and it felt disorienting sometimes, still feels disorienting sometimes, to make healthy choices. But it's a question for all of us who are in the healing work, the work of healing ourselves, to ask ourselves, because it requires bravery. It is not easy. It is a misconception that being healed is like an easy thing, and you get over there and you're on the other side taking vacays and doing and loving it up, and you got your candles lit, and it's a daily decision. And so we have to ask ourselves, are you sure, sweetheart, that you want to be well, that you're ready to be healed? Because it's no trifling matter to stand in these positions that we all stand in. And by we, I don't mean just Morgan and I, every single woman. This is why we're wearing solidarity in blue this coming Saturday. If you're participating in GirlTREK Welcome Walks, every single woman who puts on a GirlTREK blue shirt is making a brave and courageous decision to say, see me, world, as I heal. Watch me, sisters and friends, as I navigate a new path that nobody else has been down before. I'm making choices that you may not understand. I'm making choices that may alienate or isolate me from people I cared about. I'm doing the things that I need to do for myself that you may not understand and people may push back on, but you do those things anyway. And for the women who do it in the blue shirts, and we have tens of thousands of those blue shirts that have flooded communities, I just want to say thank you, because you are the beacon, you are the light, you are the Harriets of your communities. You did answer, yes, I am sure I want to be well. I know it's no trifling matter, but I'm going to keep going.
Somebody take that clip and just spread it everywhere. It was so beautiful. It's so amazing and true that to walk through a sick world as a healthy person is woo. Y'all, you got to be careful. You got to be careful. But I'm gonna tell you, any arrows coming to you are gonna fall at your feet if you are in alignment. You will have such a vortex around you, they will fall at your feet. Any arrows coming for you, you have to believe that this is the pathway by which you are meant to walk, that you are meant to walk upright, that you are meant to breathe deep into your chest cavity, into your belly, that you are meant to unfurl your chest and roll your shoulders back and walk with some kind of pride that your ancestors for thousands of years have walked on this planet. That's why I like that avatar, because they got that from us. But you see how them people be walking?
Yes, I did. Yes.
That's why I be at the gym trying to give me an avatar body. Because I know they took that from our ancient people.
Oh my God.
There you
go. This conversation, Morgan, it also circles back to a personal conversation that you and I had. I was telling Morgan, y'all, last week that I was getting these messages from my ex-husband every now and again. And that the messages were really triggering to me and really hurtful, because he was consistently commenting on the way he thought I looked. because as we talked about in one of the other episodes, and I said online, I've lost some weight, I'm experiencing hyperthyroidism, I'm navigating through it, and my body has changed, looks have changed, everything. Either way, your ex-husband, who you ain't talked to in several years, really has no positioning to weigh in on it. But I was telling Morgan that he had triggered me, and sure enough, Morgan, this morning, as God was trying to tell me something, I get another message, right? And the message says, "Hi, I saw your message about your thyroid. I don't know about these things, but glad you have made progress on your health. You didn't look well. Also, by the way, me and my woman are going to be living in your neighborhood just in case you run into us." This is what the message said. So
let that arrow fall by your feet. Let it fall by your feet and keep moving.
Morgan,
Step on over. Step on over.
Let it fall by your feet, y'all. Let it fall by your feet. And unlike any other time that I have responded before, I just definitively said with some curse words. So, by the way, because I felt it, like, don't effing contact me again with any opinion ever about how I look. You don't have a right. We'll never have a right. I don't care what you think about my look. And I just say that to somebody out there because a big part of being healed, and why I called this episode Speak Your Truth, and what Toni Cade Bambara taught us, is that the disease that we experience internally that manifests as so many physical diseases, so much, if you read her work, is root cause, is rooted deep down in us simply not speaking our own truth. And
Vanessa, let me tell you why. I'm going to tell you how this is connected to Friday. Remember, I told you Dr. Bennett said there are two kinds of stress, that stress and hypertension is the #1 killer of Black women. Then he said there are two types of stress. The stress that we perceive, which Black women are low in because we don't perceive anything to be stressful because we're warriors. And then he says, and the other type of stress is what he calls the things that happen to you, no matter what you perceive, no matter how optimistic you are. The things that happen to you. And he said #1 in that is divorce. He was like, people experience such trauma after divorce, but no one talks about it, particularly Black women. And then he started naming all these other things, like losing a child, losing a parent, being in a violent neighborhood, managing substance abuse. He just started having physical disease, all these other things that are happening to you and causing actual stress in your life and actual constriction in your body. Your body takes the score, is what he said. He said, so we have to acknowledge the pain of the things that have happened to us. And I say that continues with what you're saying. You have to tell the truth.
Yes. Anyone who's ever been a part of AA or NA or any of the recovery groups knows that they say that you're only as sick as your secrets. If you've been in church, you know that John 8:32 says, and we know the truth, and the truth will set you free. I knew all of those things, and the same week that I went to the doctor, Morgan, and the doctor ran my numbers and was like, oh my goodness, you have hyperthyroidism, your thyroid that's in your throat is doing that. 2 days before, a healer sat down with me and said, your throat chakra, your 5th chakra, the chakra that is in control of your thyroid, your language, your throat, and your mouth, and the thyroid that holds all of your emotions, is holding too much. She told me that. And then the next day, the doctor called back and was like, got these results. This thing that's in your throat is producing this hormone.
Whoa.
And
whoa.
Yes. And she had recorded this meditation for me that I've been doing almost every day. She told me to do it every day, but this is the point of healing, y'all. I'm doing it almost every day and working my way up to every day. I do it as much days as I can. And
right, but what's the meditation? What it say? Somebody needs to hear it. What it say?
Well, first of all, it's almost 18 minutes long, and it's a beautiful body scan. And it says that my cells are working in harmony. My metabolic rate is working in harmony. I speak so clearly. I express my emotions now. My throat is no longer holding on. It is releasing with kindness and care every single thing that I need to say. It says stuff like that. And she didn't know I was going to get that diagnosis, but she knew, because she was a healer and does energy work, that there was something being held in my throat. And I knew there was something being held in my throat because that's how I stayed in that marriage for 19 years, y'all. Every single day, I want you to imagine the discipline of swallowing every single day things you want to say and not saying them. Every single day being accommodating first and taking care of yourself second or last. every single day, filtering every single thing that you do by the needs of somebody else and asking, what do I need and how do I show up for them? And then showing up for yourself in the margins. And that behavior was learned from living from a long time, from being in an environment when I was little where I thought that my whole survival, food, shelter was dependent on what I did or didn't say because I wasn't raised by my parents and I was raised in a household where I really had to depend on each other. It then showed up in my romantic relationships where I'm not expressing when I feel like I need more, want more, deserve more, would like it like this, whatever it is, unable to say those things into a marriage with somebody who I then also silence. And yet in a space at work where it is my job to give voice, to amplify. And eventually that push and that pull, it deteriorated my physical body. That push and that pull, that unalignment, that unintegration of my voice with my true self, with what I wanted to say, with who I was, it just took a physical toll on me. And it is my diagnosis that is where the source root of my hyperthyroidism has come from. And it is my diagnosis that all the healing that needs to happen first has to happen with me owning my voice, talking about what's on my heart and spirit, feeling like it's a safe environment and safe space for me to express myself without feeling that the consequences are going to be a fist fight, which is sometimes what would happen often in my household when I grew up. When people would try to express themselves, there would be a lot of violence. And so you have to unlearn those patterns and then give yourself the grace of understanding that you practice those patterns. I practice those patterns like Mike Tyson every day, so they don't just come unfurled overnight. You don't just all of a sudden learn it overnight. You first have to be aware of it. And almost since my divorce, which has been, I got divorced in 2020, so almost 3 years, it'll be this August, all I've been doing is observing in some ways, just taking note, just recognizing the patterns, just being aware, and then even giving myself more grace in those awareness moments. And then with gentleness, I come back to those things and I work on them and work through them. And it's so hard, Morgan. It is so hard. But it is the work of my lifetime, y'all. It is the work of my lifetime to heal myself and to document the healing journey so that other women can follow in the path and do the same. Let's get into some Toni Cade Bambara. I'm happy we had this precursor conversation. Morgan, what do you know about Toni Cade Bambara? She may have got on mute, y'all, or she's in that neighborhood where she's walking. We can't hear her. Let's give her a second to get back on. Let all that I said even settle in.
I'm here. God put me in mute jail so you could tell your testimony. I heard every word of it. I heard every word of it. No, I believe that. I just believe God has so much just grace and alignment for us that was just a moment, Vanessa. It was a moment. Holy Ghost, it was a moment for you to tell your truth. It was a moment.
It was a moment, and I'm thankful. I'm thankful for this story of Toni Cade Bambara because also when I got that text message this morning, I've been working on getting my name changed because I have decided a long time ago that I'm not going to carry this name into my future life because it doesn't have anything to do with me. It doesn't define me, and I want to let it go. And we have talked so much about this, and I pointed it out just in these 8 days because I think at least 3 of the people we've talked about in the 8 days have also changed their name. That is a theme with women who we talk about in Black history, where at some point they decide and stand up and say, I will be called this, and they say it with intention. And so Toni Cade Bambara was born Miltona Mirkin Cade. She was born in Harlem in the 40s. And at 6 years old, she went to her mother and said, 6 years old, she was like, I'm changing my name to Toni. And so her family started calling her Toni Cade until she saw some stuff that was at her grandmother's house, Morgan. And it was a sketch that someone who had visited her grandma's house had done. And on the sketch, they put the Bambara people. And the Bambara people are an ethnic group that is all throughout West Africa, Mali, and Ghana. And she said something about that just spoke to her, and she started calling herself Toni Cade Bambara after the Bambara people of West Africa. And so Miltona Mirkin Cade changed her name to Toni Cade Bambara legally in 1970. She was a woman in her 30s by the time she had added Bambara to her, or in her mid to late 20s when she had added Bambara to her last name, but she was defining herself for herself.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
She earned,
I'm glad you're changing your name. I love Vanessa Renee. It is perfect.
Me too. It's the name my grandfather gave me. It's a name that I've always loved to use. I used to, in class, write my name. You know, well, first of all, I used to always have to write my name because I got in trouble. So it'd be like, write your name on the board 50 times, or write this. I was always on the board writing names. All shout out to Zion Christian School. But then I also always would write my name because I actually really always was in love with it and felt like it really represented me. So I'm happy for the women out there who are finding names that represent them.
When you were just talking, I was thinking that after I went through all that stuff with that man in Sacramento, and I moved and I went to Howard. Remember, I went back to USC for a year and then I moved to Howard. That's when I changed my name from Tanya to Morgan. And I didn't realize it, but I really needed that. I didn't even realize like the power of like self-identifying, but I really needed that because I had experienced such trauma and I really needed that. And the Morgan side of my family was so solid. It was such like, it was respite. And so I was thinking, we have redefined this name. We have redefined this name over generations, and I want to wear that proudly. So I just started calling myself.
Why don't I go back to my maiden name? But I'm just like, I got to break down my whole daddy to you, and that's way complicated for you to understand that also ain't mine to carry, y'all.
It's not yours to carry.
It ain't mine to carry. Yeah. Yes. It's not the load, it's the way we carry it. And sometimes you just got to put stuff down that isn't yours. So.
Yeah. I have never read any Toni Cade Bambara. I saw the Salt Eaters on your shelf like for many years, but I always thought it was such like a cool name and thought and idea. And I always see her name in the pantheon of great writers, but I just am not nearly as literate as I need to be. I'm not nearly as well read as I need to be. And I'm excited about, the whole, in the last 10 years where every book is in audio. I'm so grateful to start listening to books. So I think I'm going to listen maybe to the Salt Eaters. Is that what you recommend?
I would recommend listening to the Salt Eaters, and I also recommend Gorilla My Love, which is a series of short stories. It's kind of a young adult type book, but yes. And Morgan, it's you know the story of Lot's wife. She turned into salt, right?
Oh yes, when she turned around.
So it's like, deep. I just want to say,
banana.
Yes.
Don't do it,
and it was because Lot's wife was doing what this woman in the book was doing. For sometimes a person held on to sickness with fierceness. So Lot's wife, I don't know if you all know, but she struggled between letting go of her loyalty to old things because she had a fear of new things. And a lot of people think that Toni Cade Bambara's The Salt Eaters and the character in there was based after Lot's wife. And also for those of you who know about healing traditions, it's really important the salt balance that we have in our bodies. And there's a lot of traditional healers who use salt. And at one point in the book, she says, a good cry, man, good for the eyes, the sinuses, and the heart. The body needs to throw off its excess salt for balance. Too little salt and wounds can't heal. And then she says, remember Napoleon's army? Those frogs are dropping dead from scratches because their bodies were deprived of salt, but too much salt. And then she goes on to talk about it. So even in her title of the book, The Salt Eaters, she is talking about so much about the healing traditions of the ancestors. And she learned,
and I heard at one point that all of the African Americans now who are alive and thriving in America are alive because we had a predisposition to retain salt, because our ancestors who did not have the ability to retain salt died of dehydration in the Middle Passage or in the heat of plantation work. And so that is important, but it's important now that there's white salt on every table. We are retaining it more, and then we have high blood pressure. Do you understand what I mean? And so we have to know from where
we don't need all that extra salt.
We don't need it. We have a perfect balance already. We don't really need the extra salt that you put on. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And I learned if you have hyperthyroidism, you don't need the iodine, which is in so much table salt.
Yes.
So it's one of the themes of what we have to do, which is learn our own bodies and really understand what we actually personally need.
I got some roasted peanuts in the shell because actually Queen of Food was like, you need to eat some peanuts in the middle of the day. Okay, I do need the protein. I'm working out. But I've had a existential moment, y'all. I was standing at the grocery store and they had the salted ones. They had the raw ones, the salted ones in the shell, and then the unsalted roasted ones. I got that little yellow bag of the unsalted roasted ones, but they was good. I was eating them last night under my blanket.
And put some spices on them. You know, that's what I'm saying. You just put some spices. You don't need the salt. Just put some paprika if you really need something or whatever.
No, but the actual process of roasting made the flavor of the peanut cake come out. You don't actually need the salt. So
I was putting some salt in my corn water. I was boiling some corn, and my man was just like, I want to taste the corn. I want to taste the corn. But then I just was like, you're supposed to put salt in the corn water. But then I was like, why are you supposed to put salt in the corn water? I don't know. But it doesn't even make no sense. It don't make no sense. You don't need salt in the corn water, you know.
Last night, this is a loud true story. Last night, I was at a barbecue with my man and his friend and their whole family. And the Cowboys are really good. Grill master. He's really, really good. And so, but he decided he gonna smoke some baked beans on the grill, right? So he was like, babe, go get the brown sugar. And I was like, but I told GirlTREK I'm gonna stop eating sugar. So I went and got the brown sugar. He put the brown sugar in, and then the people was like, cut up some of that sausage and put it there. He was cutting it up. So then halfway through cutting it up, he was like, that's all I'm gonna put in. You know, my girl gotta eat. Babe, I'm not gonna eat that corner of brown sugar and sausage and three beans. You know? But I'm gonna tell you, I did taste it and it was delicious. That'd be the problem. It was delicious. It was delicious. And I thought about how I'm gonna make me a 3-bean, pot of beans or something like that. And I was like, I don't even know how to flavor stuff. So that is the skill that we need.
I wanted to cook some black beans last night, but I'm gonna cook them today. And I had to I read all sorts of recipes. I'm like, I know these black beans don't need no meat. And of course they do not need no meat. Most people don't even season them with meat. And there's so many different coconut milk and bay leaves and all sorts of stuff that you can put in them to just make them yummy.
Yeah. I'm gonna make some beans today too. Also amino acid, and then if you get desperate for the taste, you can have a little bit of liquid smoke.
Liquid smoke, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Look out! Let me tell you about Toni Cade before we've really told you about Toni Cade without telling you about Toni Cade. She is a woman who really talks about the healing traditions of our ancestors. She talks about it in a very Black vernacular, and she has done it. She did it throughout her very short career because she passed away at 56 years old. From colon cancer. And when she passed away, Toni Morrison, actually, her daughter gave Toni Morrison her last manuscript, and Toni Morrison edited it and published it for her posthumously. And I have put up at the top of my notes that Toni Cade Bambara was everyone's favorite best friend, like Pearl Pleage, Nikki Giovanni. She really was a Black woman who held space, and she held space for Black women within the artist space for what I kind of feel like she played the GirlTREK role, and I'm gonna tell you why. She herself really shied away from the title of artist, even though she was an artist, but she called herself a cultural worker. And she was like, because the idea of artists, when people usually put it on, they feel separate from, or somehow she thought it was a little bit highfalutin. And she was like, just like there's factory workers and food workers, she's like, I'm a cultural worker. And through my cultural work, I do writing and all sorts of other things. But she was like, I really want to be called a cultural writer, a cultural worker. And I love that about her. It speaks to who she was. She got a bachelor's of arts degree when she graduated from high school at Queens College. She studied being a mime in Paris. I like this little known fact because Black girls, Black women, we gotta get outside the box. And I was like, yes, she went to Paris and studied theater and specifically studied being a mime. And then she came back.
And then, that's sorry, I'm in my truck now. Because it got hot out there. But that's powerful also because of what we talked about with Dr. Francis, which sometimes you got to be quiet. And even sometimes you have to be quiet. Her studying culture and being quiet in that study is powerful.
It is. She got a Master's of Arts degree from the City College of New York. And then she published, I have an old copy of this, although it's not the first edition, but she was the first writer to do an anthology of Black women writers. And she published it in 1970. It was called The Black Woman. Everybody's writing is in there, Nikki Giovanni, Audre Lorde. And I want you, this was 1970. So before they were the luminaries that we know of them today, she was in community with all of these writers and compiled their works into this book. And then it was 1972 when she did Gorilla My Love, which is a collection of short stories that we already talked about. And then it was 3 years later when she did The Salt Eaters. But in addition to her writing, she was a teacher and she loved teaching, Morgan. She taught at the City College of New York. She taught at Rutgers. She taught at Spelman College. And it was actually at Spelman College. I was stunned by this. She actually tried, she was a visiting professor at Emory. But while she was at Spelman, she tried to get a class introduced that was about Black women writers, and they actually rejected the class. Maybe there was some other backstory we don't know, but then she started famously teaching the class in her living room. And so her living room right outside of the AU Center in Atlanta, it was on Simpson Avenue. It became a gathering spot for like all of the, you know how we talked about the stoop in New York and the niggerati, Morgan, and how all of those people were gathering? Well, Toni Cade Bambara's living room in Atlanta became a spot like that, where she was hosting these weekly classes out of her house, and she was doing writing workshops, and so many of our favorite writers were coming through there and having conversations and really learning from her. And so after she left, you're going to love this part the most. After she left teaching, she decided to go to Philadelphia and become a filmmaker, because she was like, I got something to say. And for over 10 years, she wrote a script.
What? I missed that part.
A filmmaker. To become a filmmaker. Yes. And she wrote a script a year. And most famously, she moved to Philadelphia to do her first screenplay about the Muse bombing of the activists in Philadelphia, and it was called The Bombing of Osage Avenue. And then she became really invested in, she was also a social worker.
Somewhere? How did we watch that?
Yes.
Were you able to find it?
It's a good question because I didn't look it up, but I should. So yes, we will find it and share it on Instagram so that we can all, and on our social media so that everybody can access it. I hope it is somewhere. The Bombing of Osage. And then Morgan, she was also working as a social worker at this time, y'all. She was a professor, she was writing, she was producing screenplays, and she had a passion for actual social work and would work as a social worker. And it was her work as a social worker that got her interested in the Atlanta child disappearances. Everybody probably remembers this or has heard about it in hindsight, but there was a period of a time in Atlanta where over 40 children went missing and nobody was talking about it. And it was Toni Cade Bambara that became a frontline activist. She started calling up the newspapers. She started doing education in the neighborhood and communities. She started joining the search groups. She then wrote a film script about what happened, and she was one of the people who was behind helping to bring that case to the forefront so that people could act on it. And so she was involved in all of these beautiful things, and yet I felt so sad about, I felt so grateful for her story, grateful for the books that she's left us, grateful for the example that she led, and I felt genuinely sad, Morgan, that she died at 56 years old. And I keep saying this in the episodes because we've been talking about it, and Bell Hooks died at 69 years old, and a lot of the women who we have talked about. And it just is a consistent reminder for all of us that we have to stay so vigilant about our health. And it can't be an aside. And this work we're doing is so essential because we have to be able to listen to our bodies and to respond quickly when we listen to our bodies. The respond quickly is really important, y'all, because I thought something was likely going on.
I'm going to tell you how quick I just responded as soon as you said that. No, Vanessa, as soon as you said that, I literally stopped and put my top down on my convertible. Because listen, life.
Yes.
You got to get after it.
Exactly. You got to get after it.
That's too sad. Let some sunshine in.
Yes, you have to respond quickly and don't wait. I feel like I could have went to the doctor to have this diagnosis much earlier, but I was attributing it to stress and attributing it to sadness and my divorce and all of these things I'm going through, all of which were true. And also there's medical diagnoses and medical help. So you have to be able to listen to your body and have the capacity and the energy, and capacity and energy are built through rest practices, y'all. Capacity and energy are built through rest practices. And so if you don't have the capacity right now to even make a doctor's appointment, you are in an SOS acute stage. That's what my doctor told me. You are in an acute stage, ma'am. He was like, you have no more time to fuck around. Sorry, but that was the level of language he was using to me, and I appreciated it. And it's like I got to work. That he was using. And you know what? I needed that because I could have traveled a little bit less a lot sooner, but I just didn't. And then all of a sudden he told me that, and I just was like, it was not that hard to figure out how to not travel in May. I just didn't do it. Or it's been not that hard to just say, I don't go nowhere on the weekends no more, y'all. I just go to my balcony and lay on my balcony and rest. And sometimes I walk over to the GirlTREK office. It's only 3 blocks away. But like I really started to I needed some rest practices, go back to yoga, get back to my walking, and you need those things too. And so, Morgan, I know that was a lot of information, but I want to share a couple of things.
I just want to do a plug for people who don't know where to start and who may be like, yeah, I hear all that, but I don't got time to go to the doctor. I got to pick my kids up. Is that if all you do is open your front door and walk in any direction for 15 minutes in the morning, that's enough, because you got to walk back. That's 30 minutes. That'll save your life.
That's so true.
Even if you're walking slow and flip-flops, just start. You might walk slow and flip-flops for a year and get your mind right first, and then you'll put on your sneakers and try to get that 15-minute mile. You could do 2 miles in 30 minutes. Like, that's unbelievable. A mile out and a mile back. But in the beginning, you might only go a quarter of a mile, 15 minutes out, because you saunter and you're getting your mind right. That's okay. And that is just a good practice, y'all. It's a good practice. I just wanted to give somebody a prescription if they're trying to get started.
Thank you for that, Morgan. And in today's Monday motivation email that will go out, Morgan has recorded a 15-minute training, actually, that everybody can listen on their first walk. And it's a training, but it's more than a training. It's really all of your questions answered in a very lovely format. And so you can walk out 15 minutes and listen to that and come back 15 minutes and listen to some music or something else. And you'll also be good to go in terms of being prepared to organize on behalf of GirlTREK. So, Morgan.
But that's a you certified.
You certified. There you go. Yeah. So before we go, I want to quickly share something that I found helpful and interesting to me. Somebody cataloged the 9 types of secrets that we usually keep. I thought the categories were interesting because sometimes we don't even know we're keeping the secrets. And when I tell you is that you're keeping them from yourself, it's like you can have a confessional practice where you just in meditation speak out loud your own secrets to yourself and let the mat in the room hold them. You could speak them out loud on your walk. You could call a friend. You can talk to a therapist. But there's emotional infidelity. That's one of the signs. There's extra relational thoughts that you might be having. There's secrets about our sexual behavior. There's lies that we create so that we can feel like we're in an alternate reality versus the reality we live in. There's our romantic desires and not sharing them. There's violations of trust where we have violated trust or trust has been violated from us. There's our ambitions and goals, which we just are too afraid to share and don't want to share them. There's details about things that are happening in our family, and there's financial. And so I just shared those just to help you catalog your own things in a way that you can start to be honest with yourself. And then I'm going to close out by
Sorry, I just started laughing because we used to lie so much about our financial when we was in our 20s, especially you.
Right.
Look. Check system, but then you.
Look, y'all.
I'm going to get look. And I'll be like, how can she afford this?
I got through all of the 90s at the check cashing place. I really did. And it came back to haunt me in the early 20s. But yes, exactly. And then I got a car that way. I got all, look, it's just like we were just trying to navigate. Yeah.
But when you just, because it's optimism can sometimes be a lie. This is really important.
It is.
You also have to speak the truth to yourself. I don't have enough money for this. It's the truth, and that's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to tell that truth sometimes. But I love that list.
Yeah,
I love that list. Did you put that in the email, or can we put it on social media or something? I love it.
We'll put it on social. Yeah, we'll put it on social for you all, so that you have it. And then I want to close speaking a few affirmations that I also found about just truth, and that I think will resonate with somebody, and one of these might resonate with you, so pick it up if it does, maybe more than one. But the first one is, I balance honesty and kindness with ease. The second one is, my voice is unique to me and worthy of hearing. I heal myself and others by speaking the truth. Today, I am an active and compassionate listener. There is a sense of spaciousness opening around my throat. I hold space for others to share their truth. I speak truth and love without fear. Today, I speak with full authenticity. I envision blue healing light around my mouth, neck, and throat. I can set boundaries and express my needs. I am a confident communicator. My words are graceful and clear. That's all we have for you, y'all. On day 8 of this 21-day walking meditation, Black History Bootcamp, we are sharing the 21 pleasure principles.
Slow clap. That was good.
Thank
Slow
you.
Clap. That was good. Yes.
And we are going to end. This song is so important. I feel like you have sang it a million times. I have sang it a million times, but I'm pretty sure it is sometimes you have to encourage yourself. So we're going to close you out on that, and thank you for walking with us, and we'll be back here tomorrow walking at noon Eastern live.